Shalom, bitches. Myandis here from Audio Only, bringing you some more Billy Bob. We're on chapter 14, so let's do this thing. The Crucians had long been the secret service of the galactic government. Compared with most species, they were fierce warriors and ambush predators. Their hunter-killer castes could pounce on a target and slink back into the void, with speed and accuracy that was legendary. They very seldom failed at a mission. This weighed heavily on Billy Bob, who had lost his hunter-killer caste to a single ugly little creature. His mandibles quivered with rage at the thought while he settled into the shadows, watching the briefing caste leader Clearroy was giving.
This creature, known as an American, is a subspecies of the greater human population. While we need to do proper analysis on all humans, what we've learned about these Americans is worrisome. Their body structure appears to be incredibly dense, as on par with super heavy gravity creatures. While they do not possess a superior exoskeleton like ours, their internal bone structure appears to be supplemented with incredibly dense layers of muscles. Considering they ingest capsaicin and large amounts of caffeine in a drink they refer to as coffee, we can only assume they are highly poisonous as well as venomous.
As the hunter-killers around the shadowy chamber clicked and chittered, Clearroy used his clickers to signal silence.
They do not possess claws of any kind, and their mandible is insufficient for biting, but do not underestimate it. It makes up for this by being durable and strong. They also appear to be able to calculate complex firing equations in their head, and fire ballistic weapons accurately while moving.
This sent a hiss of surprise through the ranks. There were outbursts of disbelief at the information, but Clearroy tapped on his holo display before him. The hunter-killers went quiet as they watched the security footage. Most had heard of his victory over the squad of Phyllis, but the Crucians were superior to them in nearly every way, and this did not concern them. The Vekish, however, were strong combatants and fierce warriors who gave them a challenge. Now they were watching this lone American take on and defeat an entire clan of Battle Brothers. On his own.
What are those weapons they're using? Ballistic weapons. Impossible! Ballistic weapons that small? How does he control them? I've never seen a ballistic weapon mounted on less than an armor crawler. I assure you, he is wielding ballistic weapons. One seems to be focused on a single, accurate, high-impact shot. The other disperses smaller rounds in a much wider area. He also has some sort of fire-breathing method we don't understand. His use of fire goes beyond that as well, so this species must have high thermal tolerance.
The Crucians chittered and stirred at the news. Their hydrating mucus was what kept them operable outside of the water. If their enemy had some special method of bringing fire wherever he went, it did not bode well for them.
We are waiting for the Black Market station to surrender. Then we'll capture the targets,
Clearroy continued. Billy Bob ticked at annoyance at the idea. If he found them first, they wouldn't be captured, that was for sure. He'd rip them limb from limb. Dense body be damned, no one blinded two of his eyes and survived. Clearroy was about to continue when Juvenile Gresh rushed into the room.
Caste leader, the station sent us a message. Good. Have they surrendered? No, they say they don't know what we're talking about. What? His ship is docked with them. We just checked, caste leader. It isn't.
Clearroy hissed out and tapped on the holoprojector to bring up a real-time projection of the station. He scanned the docked ships and hissed once more.
Impossible! He was engaged in prolonged combat. He should need at least 10 solar cycles to recover from torso wounds like he suffered. Where did he go?
Clearroy clicked and hissed in frustration.
This American is incredible. Its endurance and pain tolerance must be unheard of. Likely the most elite of their commandos. Spread the word among the castes. There is no greater threat to the peace of the galaxy than Billy Bob Space Trucker.
Billy Bob was currently bobbing his head while driving his rig. Music poured out of the speakers. Taking care of business every day, taking care of business every way. Emily was in the co-pilot seat, studying a map of their route, heading deeper into the core worlds towards the capital. Billy Bob, the work songs your people come up with are rather incredible. Are the ones you have on file simply new takes on ancient farm songs?
What? No, well, some. Maybe. I don't think so. We just like music, and there's other stuff out there. I just like the work songs. Good for trucking, too. We sing about work and love and loss and stuff. Well, most of us don't sing. We listen to other people who can sing. Some songs are a bit funny, even if they're good. Here.
He scrolled through his implant and selected a new track. The music began, and he started bobbing his head again. As the singing started, he just grinned. Emily frowned a little as she listened to the lyrics, until she jumped a little as Billy Bob sang out the chorus.
Oh, won't you give me 3 steps, mister? Give me 3 steps towards the door.
Then Billy Bob bit his lower lip and rocked his air guitar as hard as he could for a few seconds, before grabbing the controls of the ship again. It's a song about adultery and murder.
Sorta, he said with a laugh. The guy in the song isn't even pretending he's tough or anything. He's running for his life. Sometimes you gotta step up, sometimes you gotta get the fuck out. Someone's got a 44 in your face, there's no shame in bugging out. One of my favorite bands. They have this song.
He paused and got a faraway look in his eyes.
I'll save that song for something special.
How is it humans have so many genres of music from such a short period of time? I've said it before, but most species have one general trend to their music. You've got several. As far as I can tell, you change it once every one of your decades.
Oh, and don't forget that I've mostly been giving you rock. I also have country and a bit of techno, but after those Skrillex messed you up, I figured you wouldn't like it.
She frowned at that. Wait, you've made music that sounds like a direct audio assault.
Yeah. Maybe it doesn't sound like that to us.
Emily tried to process that for a moment, remembering the awful pain and nausea she felt when those creatures let forth that hideous sound. And humans had music like that. Perhaps their density made them less susceptible? It did pose a problem, however, if they figure out how to weaponize it.
So, how far is the next black market station? We need to buy supplies for our new pet,
Billy Bob said, which brought her back to reality. New pet? Oh, you mean the space cat dog, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, we've just set him up in a crate in the back to start settling in, right? He needs toys and a proper bed and stuff.
That's just an infant, you realize, right? It's not fully grown.
That thing's a good size for an earth animal, it sorta looks like. How big does it get?
Emily brought up the extranet from the co-pilot's chair and scanned through it for a minute to find him a picture.
What? That thing's a friggin' horse. I could ride it.
I suppose. It's from a relatively high-gravity planet. It can support several 100 pounds and is often used as a pack animal. So, sure. But why would you? We're on a spaceship traveling faster than light.
Yeah, so? I've got a pet 6-legged fox thing that I can ride. How awesome is that?
You could sell it for 1 million credits.
You're gonna pay me a few billion. The fuck do I need another million for?
Emily paused at that and thought it over. He had a fair point. She hadn't transferred any funds to him so far, but the contract they had in place from their first encounter seemed to be enough for him. Well, it's not practical.
Yeah, well, Americans aren't super big on practical sometimes. I'ma keep 'em. Also, I gotta change the name. Foxhorse. Horks. No, Force? No, shit. Come on, Billy Bob. Gotta think up a better name.
Emily stared at him as he tried to rack his brain for a better idea.
Fuck it. I'll just think up a personal name. He's a pet after all.
Emily waited for him to follow up with a name, but he just blinked and cursed.
Shit, I gotta think this one over. I was gonna say he's got black feet, so it looks like he's wearing mittens, but, well, that name's already taken.
He glanced over his shoulder at his cat, then looked at Emily.
What do you guys use for pet names?
Some people give them normal names. Some people do what you do, try to assign them names based on looks.
Shit. If he was a bird, I would call him Leonard. But he's not, so...
He went quiet again.
I'll figure it out. Once we buy him some toys and I take the time to play with him.
Emily just shrugged. It really upset you that those space hippies were trying to feed him vegetables, didn't you?
Fuck yeah, it did. It's an animal. You don't try to feed a carnivore fruits and vegetables because you wish he didn't eat meat. You feed him meat and fucking get over it. I wouldn't try to stuff a steak down the throat of one of those space hippies, damn it.
There was a pause as they both went quiet for a little bit, until at the same moment he tilted his head and said,
I probably would.
While she said, You probably would.
But that's different. Sort of. Whatever.
He grumbled a little while Emily just shrugged it off. They were only an hour from the next Black Market Space Goblin station and spent the time listening to music. Billy Bob would every so often shout out a name and then shake his head right after. He had to make this name count. Once they reached the station, they quickly docked, and Billy Bob looked over at his weapons locker.
Should I suit up?
I don't think you need to. We're in about as good standing with the space goblins as we can get. He nodded at that, but did take his M1911 just in case. Exiting the ship, they walked down the docking arm. No bloodstains, no flickering lights. Just a few space ants standing around, scanning implants and waving people on as they entered. Billy Bob and Emily were approved quickly and waved on into the main hub. The sounds of a myriad of species buying, selling, and trading black and gray market goods filled their ears as they stepped out into the busy street-like halls. Emily looked around for some sign of a vendor who dealt with exotic animals, but Billy Bob gasped and ran over towards a street vendor. Behind the stall was a grizzled old one-eyed space goblin, who glanced up at his customer.
Is that ice cream?
The space goblin looked down at his cart. In front of him was an array of colorful-looking cold mushes.
Is it what? Fucking ice cream, man. Frozen sugar and dairy?
What? No.
Billy Bob looked crestfallen.
It's ice with sugar and flavoring. But I warn ye, this cold may not be for the faint of heart. It's kept at freezing temperatures, and is loaded with enough sugar to stun many species. Many speak of the horrifying pains known only as...
The old space goblin whispered,
brain freezes.
Billy Bob slapped down a credit cube and grabbed what he thought was a serving cup. Dragging it through a blue frozen slurry, he pulled it up to his mouth, and dumped a large chunk of it into his mouth. He shivered a little as the old space goblin stared at him in shock.
That's a Titan-sized travel container. It's meant to feed 10 at a time.
Billy Bob wasn't listening. He was turning and calling out,
Emily, slushies!
Before tilting his head back and downing more of the frozen treat. Looking over, she saw him and the shocked vendor, before softly sighing and wondering what trouble he was causing now. And so ends another chapter in the adventures of Billy Bob, Space Trucker. Alright guys, we're still in the backlog phase, so no real channel updates. Continue leaving anything that you would like to hear me record at some point. It's probably going to be several months in the future since I want to finish with Billy Bob, but there's that. Anyways, aside from that, please share this channel with your friend, like and subscribe if you like what I do here, and yeah, have a nice one.